The great meeting hall of Nexus Prime stretched out like a small city. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in their specially designed seats, each one built for different body types and breathing needs. Some delegates floated in tanks of liquid, others perched on crystal formations, and a few hung from the ceiling in gravity-defying harnesses. Chairman Vextar looked down at the gathering from his raised platform. His tall, blue-skinned body glowed with soft lights that pulsed under his transparent skin. These lights always got brighter when he felt stressed, and today they were practically blazing. The monthly Galactic Council meeting should have started an hour ago, but something was wrong. For the first time in 300 years, the human seats were empty. Vextar remembered his first meeting with humans decades ago. He had expected them to be like the other peaceful species who joined the council, polite, quiet, and easy to work with. Instead, humans argued about everything. They questioned every rule, found problems with every law, and somehow always discovered tiny details in old agreements that everyone else had forgotten about. Ambassador Chen Wei-Ming was the worst of them all. She could talk for 12 hours straight about the smallest issues. She knew every law, every treaty, and every agreement ever signed in the galaxy. Other delegates often joked that Chun had memorized more galactic law than the computers that stored it. But the humans were always here. They came to every meeting, no matter what. When their home planet had earthquakes, they came. When they were fighting wars with each other, they came. When their ships broke down, they sent messages through quantum communicators. They never missed a meeting. Today, their seats sat empty and silent. Cathara, the Zalari delegate, raised one of her 4 arms. Her body looked like it was made of living metal, and when she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. Chairman Vextar, we have tried to contact human space for 3 weeks. We get no answer. Perhaps their communication systems are broken, suggested Delegate Mortax from his water tank. The fish-like being's gills fluttered nervously. These things happen. No, I saw his metal fingers click together. This is not broken communications. This is silence. Complete silence. No trade ships, no scientific data, no cultural programs, no entertainment broadcasts. The humans always fill the communication channels with noise. Now there is nothing. The crystal being called Keth Prime hummed a low note that made the air vibrate. We have monitored their space carefully. The quantum waves that always come from their worlds have changed. Something is different there. Vextar's lights pulsed faster. The humans had made many strange laws about their territory over the years. No other species could enter human space without special permission that took months to get. They said they needed privacy to figure out their own problems before sharing them with the galaxy. At the time, most delegates thought this was good. It meant fewer human arguments about small details. Now the protection felt scary. What do we know about their last communications? Vextar asked. A small robot rolled forward. Its screen flickered to life, showing data in the common galactic language. The last official communication from Ambassador Chun was 4 weeks ago. She sent the usual monthly report about human activities. Nothing seemed unusual. The last unofficial communication was a shipping manifest from a human trade vessel 3 weeks and 2 days ago. And since then? Nothing, Chairman. The humans have what they call proxy voting systems for emergencies. These computer programs are supposed to vote for them if they cannot attend meetings. Even these systems are silent. The hall fell quiet, except for the background hum of life support systems. Each species had their own way of showing worry. The Zalari clicked their metal fingers, the Keth hummed in minor keys, and the Vorth growled low in their throats. We should send a ship to check on them, suggested General Zotok of the Vorth military. His Volf-like face showed sharp teeth. Something may have happened to them. The humans have very strict laws about entering their space, Vextar reminded him. They spent years writing those treaties. We cannot simply ignore them. But what if they need help? Asked Dr. Yelenash from the Torvin Collective. Her large eyes blinked slowly. What if something terrible has happened? Kathara's metal body shifted. We have been checking our economic data. The humans were involved in many parts of our trade systems. Without them, shipping routes are getting crowded in strange places. Some cargo is taking twice as long to deliver. Financial markets are becoming unstable because human money is worth unknown amounts now. This news made everyone more nervous. The humans had always been involved in everything. They traded with everyone, studied everything, and somehow found ways to make money from the smallest activities. Other species often complained that humans were too involved in galactic business, but now they realized how much they had depended on that involvement. There is more, Keth Prime hummed. Our crystal networks detect quantum irregularities in human space. Energy patterns we do not recognize. Large amounts of power being used for unknown purposes. Vextar looked around the hall. Every delegate seemed worried now. The Zolari were clicking faster, the Vorth were growling louder, and even the peaceful Torvin looked nervous. I call for a vote, he announced. Should we send an official investigation mission to the border of human space? The voting took longer than usual. Many delegates whispered with their assistants before casting their votes. Some species voted yes. Others voted no, and several chose to abstain completely. The human proxy voting systems, which should have voted automatically, remained silent. In the end, the yes votes won. But barely. Very well, Vextar announced, his lights now pulsing in rapid patterns. We will send the Harmony's Dream to investigate. Captain Juxvin will lead a small team to the edge of human space. They will not cross the border without permission, but they will try to learn what has happened. As the meeting ended and delegates began to leave, Vextar remained on his platform. He looked out at the empty human seats and felt something he had never experienced before when thinking about humans. For 300 years, humans have been the galaxy's biggest annoyance, always arguing, always causing problems, always making everything more complicated than it needed to be. Now, for the first time, he missed their voices, the silence where their arguments should be felt wrong, like a song missing its most important notes. Whatever had made the humans go quiet, Vextar had the growing feeling that the rest of the galaxy was not going to like the answer. 3 weeks passed without any word from human space. Every day that went by made things worse for the rest of the galaxy. The problem started small. A Zolari trading ship arrived, 2 days late in a space station because the route it usually took was now crowded with other ships. The humans had apparently been managing traffic in that area, and without them, everyone was taking the same slow path. Then the financial markets began acting strange. Human currency was used in thousands of transactions across the galaxy every day. Nobody knew what human money was worth anymore, so trades were failing and contracts were being canceled. Some worlds that depended on human trade were running out of supplies. Dr. Yelenash presented her findings to an emergency council session. Her large dark eyes looked even more worried than before. The economic damage is spreading faster than we expected, she said, her voice soft but clear. Humans were involved in 63% of all galactic trade routes. They provided shipping services, currency exchange, and market analysis. Without them, our entire economic system is becoming unstable. Tazora stood up, her metal body reflecting the lights of the meeting hall. It gets worse. We have discovered that humans were quietly providing many services we did not know about. They were monitoring asteroid fields for dangerous rocks, tracking space pirates, and maintaining communication relays in remote areas. These services are now gone. The crystal being Keth Prime hummed a deep, worried note. We must share our most disturbing discovery. Our quantum crystal networks can feel the fabric of space itself. In the past 3 weeks, the area around human territory has become wrong. What do you mean, wrong? Asked Chairman Vexstar, his body lights pulsing rapidly. The quantum signatures are changing. Space near human worlds now reads like it has massive amounts of energy running through it, but we cannot identify the source. It is as if reality itself is being modified somehow. General Zartok growled low in his throat. My border patrols have found something else troubling. The humans had monitoring stations along their borders. They claimed these were for tracking asteroids and helping ships navigate safely. We allowed this because the stations stayed in human space. And now? Vexstar asked. The stations are gone. Not destroyed, not damaged. Simply gone, as if they never existed. But we are discovering that our own early warning systems were using data from those stations without us realizing it. We now have gaps in our sensor coverage that leave us blind to threats coming from certain directions. The meeting hall fell silent except for the worried sounds different species made. The Zilari clicked their fingers nervously, the Vorth growled, and the floating gas beings whistled in minor keys. Dr. Yelanash cleared her throat. There is one more thing. Our deep space merchants have reported strange changes in human territory. The background radiation that normally comes from cities, factories, and spaceships has changed. Instead of the usual electromagnetic patterns of civilization, there is now something else. What kind of something else? Asked Delegate Mortax from his water tank. A low-frequency hum that seems to vibrate through the quantum foam itself. Our scientists have never seen anything like it. It appears to be artificial, but the power requirements for such a signal would be enormous. Vexstar's lights were now flashing in rapid, irregular patterns. How enormous? The energy needed would require the full output of multiple stars. Dr. Yelanash replied quietly. The hall erupted in worried chatter. Representatives whispered to their assistants, sent urgent messages to their home worlds, and made sounds of distress in dozens of different languages. Order. Vexstar called out. We need to stay calm and think clearly. Calm? General Zartok stood up, his wolf-like features showing sharp teeth. An entire species has vanished, taking with them technology that appears to violate known physics. They were monitoring our borders, managing our economy, and apparently hiding massive energy projects. How can we stay calm? Catharus' metal fingers clicked rapidly. The general is right to be concerned. We have analyzed the economic data more carefully. The humans were not just participating in galactic trade, they were subtly controlling it. They influenced shipping routes, currency values, and resource distribution in ways that seemed random but now appear to have been coordinated. Are you saying they were manipulating the galactic economy? Vexstar asked. We are saying they had the power to do so, and we never noticed, Cathar replied. Every trade agreement they negotiated, every shipping route they established, every financial service they provided, it all fits together like pieces of a giant puzzle. But we cannot see what picture the puzzle makes. Keth Prime hummed a series of notes that translated roughly to deep concern. Our quantum analysis suggests the energy buildups in human space are still growing. Whatever they are doing, it is not finished. We need more information, Vexstar decided. Has the Harmony's dream reached human space yet? A communications officer activated a holographic display. Captain Juxvin reports they will reach the border of human territory in 2 days. They have been scanning long-range sensors, but so far they detect nothing unusual except for the quantum anomalies the Cathan described. Tell them to be extremely careful, Vexstar ordered. They are to observe only. Under no circumstances should they cross into human space without direct permission. What if they need to cross the border to rescue humans in trouble? asked Dr. Yelanash. Then they will ask for permission first, Vextar said firmly. We cannot violate 300 years of treaties just because we are worried. General Zartok made a sound like an angry bark. Those treaties were written when we thought humans were just another peaceful species. Now we discover they have technology we do not understand and influence over our civilization that we never knew existed. Perhaps those treaties need to be reconsidered. We will not break our word, Vextar said, his lights flashing brighter. That is what separates civilized species from barbarians. But even as he said it, Vextar felt doubt growing in his mind. The humans had always been different from other species. They argued more, questioned everything, and never seemed satisfied with simple answers. Everyone had assumed this was just their nature. Now he wondered if it had been something else entirely. Had they been studying the other species? Learning their weaknesses? Preparing for something? The meeting ended with more questions than answers. As delegates filed out of the hall, many of them were already sending urgent messages to their home worlds. Some called for military preparations, others for economic protection measures, and a few suggested trying to contact human space through unofficial channels. Vextar remained alone on his platform long after the others had left. He looked at the empty human seats and tried to remember every interaction he had ever had with Ambassador Chen Weiming. Her questions that had seemed so random and annoying, had they actually been gathering intelligence? Her detailed knowledge of galactic law and trade agreements, had she been looking for weaknesses to exploit? For the first time in his long life, Chairman Vextar felt something he had never experienced before. The cold touch of real fear. Not fear of an enemy he could see and fight, but fear of the unknown. Fear of realizing that everything he thought he knew about the galaxy might be wrong. Outside the great windows of Nexus Prime, space looked the same as always, endless, beautiful, and filled with the lights of countless civilizations. But now those lights seemed smaller somehow, more fragile, as if they could be snuffed out by forces beyond their understanding. Somewhere in that darkness, humanity was doing something that required the power of multiple stars, and no one knew what it was. Captain Juxvin stood on the bridge of the Harmony's Dream, watching the edge of human space grow larger on the main viewing screen. His blue skin was darker than Chairman Vextar's, and the lights under his skin pulsed and steady. Calm patterns that helped keep his crew relaxed. Status report, he called out. We are 5 minutes from the official border of human territory, reported his navigation officer, a spider-like being whose multiple eyes tracked several displays at once. All systems are functioning normally. Any signs of human activity? Juxvin asked the sensor operator, a floating gas being whose voice came through a translator, answered in whistling tones. Nothing on standard scans, Captain. No ships, no communication signals, no energy signatures. But the quantum disturbance readings are much stronger here. Juxvin nodded. The closer they got to human space, the more his instruments had been detecting strange readings. It was like space itself was somehow thicker in this area, though that should have been impossible. There, said the navigation officer, pointing with one of her 8 arms. We have reached the border. Juxvin looked at the viewing screen, expecting to see something dramatic: weapons platforms, defensive barriers, or at least warning beacons. Instead, he saw empty space that looked exactly like the space they had just traveled through. It looks normal, he said. Surface scans confirm normal space, the sensor operator agreed. But deeper quantum readings are highly unusual. Something is definitely wrong here, Captain. Deploy a probe, Juxvin ordered. Standard reconnaissance pattern. Keep it just inside human space. A small silvery probe launched from the ship's cargo bay. It was packed with sensors, cameras, and communication equipment. The crew watched on their screens as the probe crossed the invisible line that marked the border. of human territory. For 17 minutes, everything went perfectly. The probe sent back normal readings, empty space, distant asteroid fields, and the faint energy signatures of human colonies far away. The crew began to relax. Then, without any warning, the probe simply stopped transmitting. What happened? Juxvin asked. The sensor operator's gas body swirled in confusion. Unknown, Captain. The probe was functioning normally, then its signal just ended. Not destroyed, not blocked. It simply ceased to exist as far as our sensors can tell. Could it have been destroyed by a weapon we didn't detect? No signs of weapons fire or explosions, the navigation officer reported. The probe was there, then it wasn't. Juxvin frowned. Launch another probe. Different trajectory this time. The second probe lasted 23 minutes before suffering the same fate. It transmitted normal data, then suddenly stopped existing. The crew launched a third probe equipped with quantum entanglement communicators, devices that should have been impossible to block or jam. This probe managed to penetrate deeper into human space than the others. For 41 minutes, it sent back increasingly strange readings. The space it was traveling through seemed to be somehow compressed or folded, with gravitational fields that made no sense. Captain, the sensor operator's voice was tight with worry. The third probe is reporting that the space around it appears to be artificially modified. The readings suggest reality itself has been changed in some way. That's impossible, Juxvin said. Yes, sir. Impossible, but that's what the data shows. Then the third probe also went silent. Juxvin studied the readings from all three probes. Each one had penetrated a little deeper into human space before disappearing. Whatever was happening to them, it wasn't random destruction. It was something that took time to affect the probes, as if space itself was slowly erasing them. Captain, his communications officer called out. We're receiving an automated message from Council Space. Chairman Vex Star wants regular reports on our mission. Tell him we found something unusual, but no immediate danger. Juxvin replied. We're going to move closer for better sensor readings. Sir, the navigation officer's voice was worried. Our orders were to observe from the border only. Our orders were to investigate, Juxvin corrected. How can we investigate if we don't get close enough to see what's happening? The crew exchanged nervous glances, but they trusted their captain. The Harmony's dream moved forward, crossing the border into human space. Immediately, everything changed. The ship's instruments began reporting conflicting data. The navigation systems couldn't decide where they were. The sensors kept detecting objects that couldn't possibly exist. Several crew members complained of dizziness and headaches. Captain, the sensor operator's voice was now seriously worried. Our instruments are malfunctioning. No, wait. They're not malfunctioning. They're trying to process data that doesn't make sense. What kind of data? Space-time distortions, gravity fields that change direction randomly, and energy readings that violate the laws of conservation. It's as if the fundamental rules of physics have been rewritten in this area. Juxvin felt his own skin lights beginning to pulse faster. How far have we penetrated into human space? According to our navigation systems, we've traveled 3 light hours. But according to our chronometers, we've only been moving for 20 minutes. And according to our quantum positioning sensors, we haven't moved at all. The bridge fell silent except for the sound of malfunctioning equipment and worried breathing from various crew members. Sir, the communications officer said quietly, we're receiving some kind of signal from deeper in human space. It's not directed at us, and it's not in any language we recognize. But it's enormous. The power behind it must be incredible. Can you determine the source? Multiple sources, Captain. Dozens of them, scattered throughout human territory. Each one appears to be generating power equivalent to a small star. Juxvin made a decision. Full sensor sweep. I want to know what we're dealing with." For the next hour, the Harmony's Dream used every sensor it had to scan the surrounding area. What they found defied all understanding. Hidden in the quantum substrate of space itself were massive structures. Not ships or space stations, but something far larger and more complex. They appeared to be built into the fabric of reality, like cancerous growth spreading through healthy tissue. "Captain," the sensor operator was now clearly frightened. "These structures are not made of normal matter. They exist in a state that our physics says should be impossible. And they're growing. Growing how? Expanding outward from human space toward the rest of the galaxy. At their current rate of expansion, they will reach the nearest non-human star systems within 50 standard years." The navigation officer looked up from her displays with all 8 eyes wide with terror. "Captain, I'm detecting similar structures beginning to form in the space around us. Whatever these things are, being near them causes them to appear. All stop," Juxvin ordered. "Reverse course, maximum speed." The Harmony's Dream turned around and fled toward the border of human space. But their instruments showed that space was fighting them, becoming thicker and more resistant the faster they tried to move. "Captain," the engineering officer called from below decks, "our faster-than-light drive is failing. The quantum tunneling effect that allows FTL travel appears to be suppressed in this area. Switch to conventional engines," Juxvin ordered. "Get us out of here." It took them 3 hours to reach the border, though by normal physics, it should have taken 15 minutes. When they finally crossed back into normal space, the ship's systems immediately began functioning properly again. The crew sat in stunned silence, looking back at human space. From the outside, it looked perfectly normal. There were no visible signs of the massive structures they had detected, no indication that reality itself had been rewritten just a few light hours away. "Communications," Juxvin said quietly. "Send an immediate priority message to Chairman Vextar. Tell him we need to return to Council space as fast as possible." "What should I say about what we found?" the communications officer asked. Juxvin looked at the readings they had gathered, data that suggested humans had built structures that existed outside normal physics, that could modify reality itself, and that were slowly expanding toward the rest of the galaxy. "Tell him," Juxvin said slowly, "that the humans have been very busy during their silence. And tell him that we need to evacuate this entire sector of space as soon as possible." As the Harmony's Dream jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing back toward Council space with news that would change everything. None of the crew looked back at the innocent-looking border of human territory. If they had, they might have noticed that the empty space where their probes had disappeared was no longer quite as empty as it appeared. Something was watching them leave, and that something was taking very careful notes about their ship's capabilities, their technology, and their route back home. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's history. Every seat was filled, and many delegates had brought their top military advisors and scientists. The air in the Great Hall buzzed with nervous energy and fearful whispers in dozens of languages. Chairman Vextar's body lights were flashing so rapidly they looked like a strobe. He had been in emergency meetings for the past 3 days, ever since the Harmony's Dream had returned with its impossible data. "Order," Vextar called out, though his voice cracked slightly. "We will hear the report from Captain Juxvin." Captain Juxvin stood at the center of the hall, his own lights dim with exhaustion. He had spent sleepless days being questioned by scientists, military experts, and intelligence analysts. Now he had to share their terrible conclusions with the entire council. "Honored delegates," he began, "what we found in human space defies all known science. The humans have constructed massive structures that exist outside normal reality. These structures appear to be capable of modifying the fundamental laws of physics within their area of effect. A wave of frightened sound swept through the hall. The Zilari clicked their metal fingers frantically. The Keth hummed in discord. And the Vorth growled like angry wolves. Analyst Prime Vorth Ek, the galaxy's greatest expert on theoretical physics, stepped forward. His massive, elephant-like body moved slowly, but his 4 eyes burned with intelligence and fear. "We have analyzed the data from the Harmony's dream," he announced in a voice that rumbled like distant thunder. "The structures detected in human space match theoretical models for what we call reality anchors. Devices designed to lock space-time into specific configurations." "What does that mean in simple terms?" asked Dr. Yelenesh. "It means the humans can turn off faster than light travel in any area they choose. They can prevent quantum tunneling, modify gravity, and even change how energy behaves. Within the range of these anchors, they control the very rules of reality." The hall erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in fear and anger, some demanding immediate military action, others calling for complete isolation from human space. Several species announced they were recalling all ships from areas near human territory. "There is more," Vorthek continued, his voice cutting through the noise. "The anchors are expanding. At their current rate of growth, they will encompass all of Council space within 100 years. If they continue to grow unchecked, they will eventually cover the entire galaxy." General Zartok stood up, his wolf-like features twisted with rage. "This is an act of war. They are building weapons that could destroy all galactic civilization." "But why?" asked Cathara, her metal body reflecting the frantic lights around the hall. "What do humans gain by controlling the entire galaxy?" "Control," said a new voice. Intelligence Director Kolthek stepped out of the shadows where she had been listening. Her species was known for their ability to gather and analyze information, and her insect-like features showed no emotion. "We have been analyzing 3 centuries of human behavior. Every action they have taken makes sense when viewed as part of a larger plan." She activated a holographic display that filled the air above the hall. It showed a complex web of connections between human activities across the centuries. "Look at this pattern," Kolthik continued. "Every trade agreement humans negotiated gave them access to strategic resources. Every cultural exchange program allowed them to study our psychology and social structures. Every scientific collaboration taught them about our technologies and weaknesses." The display zoomed in on specific data points. The humans asked to participate in our military exercises, claiming they wanted to learn about galactic security. We now realize they were studying our weapons, our tactics, and our defensive capabilities. More data appeared. They volunteered to help with infrastructure projects throughout the galaxy. We thought they were being helpful. In reality, they were mapping our critical systems, our supply lines, and our communication networks. Dr. Yelenash stared at the display in horror. "They were gathering intelligence the entire time?" "Not just intelligence," Kolthik replied. "They were preparing for conquest. Every seemingly random human action has been part of a plan to neutralize galactic civilization." The display showed Ambassador Chen Weiming's speeches over the years. Their famous argumentativeness was not mere stubbornness. They were probing our laws, looking for weaknesses, testing our responses to pressure. They learned exactly how our government works, how decisions are made, and how to manipulate the system. Their border protection laws, General Zartok realized. They weren't paranoid about privacy. They were buying time to build these reality weapons without interference. "Precisely," Kolthik confirmed. "And their participation in our economic systems allowed them to map our dependencies. They know exactly which trade routes to cut, which currencies to destabilize, and which resources to control to bring down our civilization without firing a shot." Chairman Vextar's lights were now flashing so rapidly they hurt to look at. "How long have they been planning this?" Based on our analysis, at least 200 years, Kolthik said. Possibly longer. Every generation of human leaders has contributed to this plan. It is the largest, longest intelligence operation in galactic history. The hall fell silent as the full scope of human deception sank in. For centuries, they had welcomed humans as difficult but harmless neighbors. Instead, they had been harboring an enemy that had been studying them, mapping their weaknesses and preparing to destroy their civilization. Cathar spoke in a voice like breaking glass. What are our options? General Zatok stood up. Military action is impossible. Our weapons rely on technologies that these reality anchors can simply turn off. We cannot fight an enemy that can make our ships unable to move, our weapons unable to fire, and our shields unable to function. Economic warfare? Suggested someone from the back of the hall. Useless, Cathar replied. They have already mapped our entire economic system. They probably planned for this scenario decades ago. Diplomatic negotiation? Dr. Yelanash asked hopefully. With what leverage? Kolthik answered. They have spent 3 centuries learning everything about us while revealing nothing about themselves. They hold all the cards. Analyst Prime Vorthik cleared his massive throat. There is one more thing. Our analysis suggests that the reality anchors are not just weapons. They are also tools. If humans can control the fundamental laws of physics, they can reshape matter and energy at will. They could terraform planets instantly, create resources from nothing, and build structures that we cannot even imagine. A post-scarcity civilization, someone whispered. Yes, Vorthek confirmed. They would become gods while the rest of us remain trapped in normal reality, subject to their whims. The silence that followed was the sound of civilizations realizing they were doomed. Finally, Chairman Vextar spoke. We will implement emergency protocols immediately. All military forces are to be placed on maximum alert. All economic assets in human space are to be seized. All research data ever shared with humans is to be classified at the highest levels. What good will any of that do? General Zatok asked bitterly. It will give us time to think. Vextar replied. Perhaps we can find a weakness in their plan. Perhaps we can develop countermeasures. Perhaps we can find some way to negotiate that doesn't end with the enslavement of every species in the galaxy. But even as he spoke, Vextar knew it was probably hopeless. The humans had been planning this for centuries. They had mapped every weakness, studied every response, and prepared for every contingency dot as the emergency session continued into the night. Delegates made desperate plans and impossible schemes. Some suggested fleeing to other galaxies. Others proposed attempting to develop their own reality manipulation technology. A few even suggested surrender, hoping that human rule might be benevolent. None of them noticed the small, invisible probe that had followed the Harmony's dream back to Council space. It hung motionless outside the station, recording everything and transmitting the data through quantum channels that could not be detected or blocked. Somewhere in human space, other beings were watching the Council's panicked response and taking careful notes. The Watchers had been preparing for this moment for a very long time, and everything was proceeding exactly as they had calculated it would. The galaxy's greatest civilizations were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one that appears to be your friend. 6 months had passed since humanity went silent. The galaxy had changed during those months in ways that no one could have predicted. Military fleets patrolled borders nervously, their weapons ready but useless against an enemy that could turn off the laws of physics. Economic systems struggled as trade routes fell apart without human involvement. Some colonies were already running out of supplies. Fear ruled the galaxy now. Every species watched their neighbors with suspicion, wondering who might be working with the humans. Trust had broken down between civilizations that had been allies for centuries. Chairman Vexstar barely slept anymore. His body lights had dimmed to almost nothing, and he moved like an old being carrying a terrible weight. He spent his days in endless emergency meetings, trying to find solutions to problems that seemed impossible to solve. That's when it happened. At exactly noon. Galactic Standard Time. Every screen in Council Space lit up simultaneously. Every communication device, every computer terminal, every holographic display suddenly showed the same image. Ambassador Shen Weiming, sitting in what looked like the same conference room where she had delivered thousands of speeches over the past decades. She looked exactly the same as always. Neat black hair, simple diplomatic clothing, and that slight smile that had annoyed so many delegates over the years. But there was something different in her eyes, a heaviness that hadn't been there before. "Honored colleagues," she began, using the same formal greeting she had always used. "We apologize for our absence from recent council sessions. We had some urgent business to attend to." The transmission was being received in every council facility, on every inhabited world, and aboard every ship in known space. The technology required for such a broadcast should have been impossible, but then, the humans had been proving that impossible things were possible. "We know our sudden silence has caused concern," Chun continued, her voice as calm and measured as ever. "We know you have sent investigators to our borders, and we know what conclusions you have reached about our activities. We understand why you might feel threatened." In the council hall, delegates sat frozen in their seats. No one spoke. No one moved. They could only listen as humanity finally broke its silence. "Before we explain our actions, we need to share something with you that we discovered 18 months ago during our deep space exploration missions." Chun's expression became more serious. "We found evidence of an approaching threat, a species from outside our galaxy that has been moving toward us for thousands of years." The image behind Chun changed to show star charts and astronomical data. "This species has consumed 17 galaxies before ours. They strip entire star systems of energy, destroy every form of life they encounter, and leave nothing but empty space behind them." The data was horrifying. Images showed vast regions of space where galaxies should have been, now containing only scattered dead matter and the fading echoes of ancient stars. "Our calculations indicate this species will reach our galaxy within 100 years, Chun said. "When they arrive, every civilization, every world, every living being in the galaxy will be destroyed." The silence in council space was total. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds listened as humanity explained why they had vanished. "We tried to find diplomatic solutions," Chun continued. "We searched for weaknesses in their technology, for ways to communicate with them, for any possibility of peaceful coexistence. We found none. This species does not negotiate, does not show mercy, and does not leave survivors. So we did what humans do when faced with an impossible situation. We found another way." The display behind Chun changed again, showing technical diagrams of the reality anchor structures. "What you call weapons, we call shields. The reality anchors are not designed to attack other civilizations. They are designed to hide our galaxy from detection." "Hide the galaxy?" The whisper came from Dr. Yelenash. Though she hadn't intended to speak out loud, as if Chun could hear her, the human ambassador smiled slightly. "These structures create a bubble of modified space-time around our galaxy. To the approaching destroyers, we will appear to be empty space. No stars, no energy signatures, no signs of life. They will pass by our galaxy without realizing it contains anything worth destroying." The technical data was incredible. The humans had built structures that could make an entire galaxy invisible to outside observation. The power requirements were staggering, but the engineering was brilliant. "We had to work in secret," Chun explained. "Any subspace transmissions or quantum signatures might have attracted the destroyer's attention before our shields were complete. We could not risk exposing the galaxy to attack while we were still defenseless. Chairman Vexstar finally found his voice. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you ask for help? Chun's smile became sad. Because we knew how you would react. You would have demanded committees, debates, studies, and votes. You would have spent decades arguing about the threat while it got closer every day. Meanwhile, any increased communication or activity might have attracted the destroyer's attention. The truth of this hit the council like a physical blow. Chun was right. They would have argued. They would have demanded proof, formed committees, and spent years debating what to do. Some species would have refused to believe the threat was real. Others would have tried to flee rather than fight. So we did what we had to do, Chun said simply. We built the defenses ourselves, working as quickly and quietly as possible. General Zatok growled a question. What about all the intelligence gathering? The mapping of our weaknesses? Insurance, Chun replied without hesitation. If our shields failed and the destroyers found us anyway, we would need to coordinate the defense of the entire galaxy. That requires understanding every civilization's capabilities, every system's defenses, and every possible resource we could use. She leaned forward slightly. We mapped your trade routes so we could move supplies quickly. We studied your military tactics so we could combine our forces effectively. We learned your languages and cultures so we could communicate clearly during a crisis. Every piece of information we gathered was preparation for the largest cooperative effort in galactic history. The display showed new images, massive shipyards hidden in the outer reaches of human space, new weapons designed to fight enemies that could consume stars, and detailed plans for evacuation routes if the shields failed. The reality anchors are only the first line of defense, Chun explained. If they don't work, we have other preparations. Weapon systems that can function outside normal spacetime, evacuation plans for critical populations, and backup strategies that we hope never to need. Kathura's metal fingers clicked rapidly as she processed this information. You built all this without asking for help, without telling anyone, without even knowing if we would agree to your plans. Yes, Chun said simply. Because the alternative was watching the galaxy die while we argued about what to do. Dr. Yelanash asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens now? Chun's expression became more formal. Now, we share everything. Complete technical specifications for the anchor technology, full intelligence reports on the approaching threat, and detailed plans for galactic defense. We proposed the largest joint project in galactic history, preparing for a threat that we hope will never find us. She paused. We know our methods were unorthodox. We know you're angry about being kept in the dark. But we thought you might prefer being angry with us to being extinct. The transmission showed more data. Thousands of pages of research, technical blueprints, strategic analyses, and defensive plans. Everything humanity had learned and built over the past 18 months was being shared freely. We will resume our normal participation in council sessions beginning next week. Chun concluded with her familiar slight smile. We look forward to your arguments about our diplomatic approach. We've missed them. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Slowly, delegates began to speak. Questions were asked, data was analyzed, and the full scope of what humans had accomplished became clear. They had built defenses that could protect the entire galaxy. Working alone because they feared that cooperation might doom everyone. It was the most human solution imaginable. Unilateral, controversial, and completely effective. Over the following days, as experts studied the human data, one fact became undeniably clear. The approaching threat was real, and without the reality anchors, every civilization in the galaxy would have been destroyed. The humans had saved them all. And somehow, they had done it while remaining completely, frustratingly, typically human. Chairman Vexstar looked at the empty human seats in the council hall and laughed for the first time in months. Next week, those seats would be filled again with argumentative, annoying, impossible humans who would probably find something wrong with their own galaxy-saving plan. He could hardly wait to hear their complaints.